Hey guys, Harpwner here. Welcome to the first Gmod tutorial for creating your own ACF tank. Part 1 is dealing with the chassis, suspension, and engine setup. Today we are on the map known as Baja Rama. You've seen this map before. This is where I tested the T55 that I created, or the HRP55. Now, I'm gonna hop into a garage and we can get started. So the first thing you want to do when creating a tank is keep in mind how big you want it to be. This will decide how big you want your base to be. For my purposes, I want to make a sort of small light tank. So for that, I think I'm going to use a 90 chassis with a length of 240. Looks good to me. Now, I want to be able to put this in the air. You need some room down here because now we're going to deal with the suspension. The suspension that I've created, the pseudo torsion bar, I like to call, is based off of these rods that kind of hang off the tank, and then hydraulics that kind of hold them in place. These hydraulics will resist the rods from going upwards, like so. So what happens is that it forces the wheel downwards, and it basically acts the same way as a torsion bar, just without the torsion part. We'll just call it like a hydraulic bar. I call it the torsion bar because it looks like one. But anywho, if you got one of these out, what you can do is make sure you set it at like a 45-degree angle. Get your precision alignment tool out, and just place it where you want your wheels to be. Except for the front and rear drive wheels. You don't want torsion bar in your drive wheel. Unless you're it depends on the layout of your tank, but usually the front and back wheels, or the elevated wheels, are the ones you don't put this on. Just put one there. And also keep in mind 45 degrees back from where you want your tank to face forward. So if it's facing forward, you want to backwards here. Now, what you do is take this. Actually, I'm going to use this right now. So I'll say I want 5 wheels. So I'm just lay them out here. Quickly just angle them. Now, as I mentioned, ACF is a time-consuming process, alright? If you don't have time, then you might as well try something like this. I'm just going to say how far on the back. This is going to be the perfect angle for demonstration purposes. Alright, so say 6. Then we'll put one here. Now, where your first bar is placed up to you. I just made it easy. We'll just set you up here. Then it counts. I'll just separate this. Keep doing that. But you get the point. The third bar is pretty simple. The hardest part is the this tutorial is probably the easiest one in terms of how much time consuming stuff like that. So I'm just counting out how far I want my rear wheel part. It's good to keep the distance between your wheels consistent. Also give your wheels enough room so they won't collide with each other in the bar state. Now, I'm going to put a rear wheel here. I need to have my drive wheel. And then front wheel will just be a front wheel. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Now you're going to want to spawn in 2 of these little guys, and this will just make it so that your drive wheel and front wheel, or whatever you're deciding to lay it out as, is always in like the same depth area as your other wheels. So it just keeps the same distance between all the wheels. This makes it easier to set up track systems if you ever do that. Now of course you don't really have to do that step, but I really recommend it because it just looks better. There we go. And from here, I'm going to create a point in which I can mirror these parts. So I'm going to put hit normal. So hit position plus hit normal. Go to the center of your prop. And then hit normal, just regular. And then click on the side. And that'll create yourself a plane. And then from there, what you can do is you can right click part, press R, go to rotation functions, mirror across plane, select plane 1, and then shift click rotate entity. This will copy it and mirror it at the same time. And then to do previous command, you can shift right click. Precision tool is like its own amazing thing. But now, I've got all this stuff. So now what I'm going to want to do is go to transportation and get some wheels out. For tank wheels, I want something about this size. It's going to be a light tank, so nothing big. To make it look cooler, I'm just going to use this side. And just see how this looks. Looks about right to me. So I'm just going to slow these up, all these wheels. And you can fast forward to the next step, which is going to be constraints. But this is just showing you the time consuming process that's going on here. Again, if you really have patience for this, I don't recommend you do every browse other people's designs and just use them to different stuff like that. Let me have design stuff. So, we're going to be going over the structure of the tank, so what's good for things like armor. When we get to the actual building part of the story, I don't know why this is not lighting right now. Because I'm sorry, no. It's early for me. Like 2 p.m. It's early for me. Don't sleep. Anyway, so all your wheels, so yeah, we're going over the best way to do things like armor in that tutorial, when we're just armor structure and all that. Basically, when we're building the tank itself. We just do the same thing all wheels.
And there we go. Got yourself a little chassis. Nothing too big, nothing too significant, but you haven't constrained anything yet, so you can't use this. Not quite. So now what you're going to want to do is quickly axis center every one of your wheels to the torsion bars. And in the case of the drive wheel and front wheel, or however you're having this set up, those get axis centered to the base prop. You do not axis center those guys to the little pieces that we put between them, because those we're just simply going to parent. And I'm not even going to make it like a good parent either, I'm just going to smack it on the prop. So technically those things don't even really exist anymore, they're just kind of visual. Alright, so now you've got them all axis centered to your torsion bars. Now take out your regular axis tool, and actually it might be better if we do this. But take this guy out, and for each of your torsion bars, yes, each of them, I know this is starting to get a little bit ridiculous, select your prop, go to Constraints, go to Axis, and then between point 1 and point 2, you should be able to create your own axis. And I'm going to bring out the duplicator just to make sure that that axis actually created itself. Yep, now it's a bit wobbly, we'll address that soon. But yeah, you're going to want to do that with every single one of these guys. So I'm probably going to skip over this part, but just remember what you got to do is point 1 on the base prop, and then point 2 on the torsion bar. I'll see you when I'm done with this. And we're back, and as you can see, when I unfreeze all of this, the wheels and torsion bars are attached. Now, you can obviously see that the torsion bars are insufficient keeping the wheels up. There are multiple ways to fix this. One of them we'll get to in a minute because that's actually the necessary step, but you're also going to want to increase the weight of each of these bars so that the mass can account for the wheels. There you go. Now it's nice and straight. And of course I'm going to want to actually do this to the main design that I'm working with. And you're going to want to adjust the weight of these torsion bars later, and the wheels as well. The mass just needs to change in general. Next thing is ball socket. Now what we're going to want to do with our ball socket is, just in case I mess up, I'm going to do this on a duplicate first. Because you might be able to, I suggest do the same thing, just to make sure it'll work, because this is a really difficult part. So first, we're going to want the torsion wheel socket setup I have here. You can copy this. And what you're going to want to do is click on the wheel and then the base prop. And what this should do is make it so that the wheel does not rotate. At least it shouldn't rotate relative to the base prop. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. Right, let's see if this works. Yep. Alright, so if you're on this map and facing in this direction relative to the garage, then you're going to want this set up here. I'm going to call this torsion wheel garage, just so it's there. Now, it's trial and error mainly because you have to account for the direction you're building your vehicle. But, you'll get it working. So just ball socket all these guys to the base prop, so you prevent any sort of buckling of the wheels and anything that looks weird. Now, from here on out, you're not really touching the drive wheel or the front wheel, so you don't really have much to worry about those. So next up, what we're going to want to do is go back to precision alignment, and there's one more constraint we got to put on each of these torsion bars, and I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. But what you're going to want to do is go there, go to constraints, and actually I'm going to do this on a duplicate too, because I am very prone to messing up. In fact, I've recorded this tutorial before, but then I've messed up, and then, yeah, no, I didn't really have any fallbacks. So next, if we go to precision alignment, set your 2 points, one on the base prop, one on the torsion bar, ball socket advanced, and what you're going to want to do is set these limits. Alright guys, I'm back and it looks like it's complete. So the limits basically make it so that when the torsion bar goes up, the hydraulic doesn't force it to stay up. It's basically a way to keep it from going stiff and failing. These torsion limits are actually quite necessary. So here's the settings right here that I've conjured for this garage. Now, of course, you're going to want to change it later on, but -40 and 25 just works in general, so I'd keep it like that. And then what you're going to want to do is go over to here and just rinse and repeat the whole way through. I'm going to fix that up, and I'm going to leave you guys again just for a moment and get these constraints done, but just remember that one goes on the base prop and then one goes on the torsion bar, and then you just create the constraint. And it looks like we've finished with it. And now, creating a duplicate, you can see that the wheels stay up and the torsion bars don't go up past their limits. At least they shouldn't. Oh, did I forget to put a limit on this one? I did. I forgot to put a limit on that one. I'm a silly goose. Let me just do that real quick. And meanwhile, while I'm fixing this up, now would be a good time to save a copy of your ship. So there we go, that fixed it. But yeah, now would be a good time. Also, before you save, make sure the mass of this is, make sure the base prop is a little bit heavier than what your gun will be, just so that there's no sagging. But anywho, you're going to want to save this, so I'm going to save this in light tank chassis, light suspension tut. Ignore the sound of a coffee mug jiggling. And done. That's just insurance, because this process is long. It's been like 20 minutes for me to even set up this part. But yeah, now this main part's done. Time for the longest one. Now, if you go to wire, make sure you have wire installed, and then go to hydraulic. What you're going to want to do is create hydraulics between the torsion bar and your base prop. And that was actually a very wrong place to put it. Make sure the hydraulic sits at the top there. And the reason is just extra insurance to make sure it won't buckle again. And what you're going to want to do is make sure your hydraulics are in an arrangement where you will know like which wheel it's controlling. It doesn't matter too much, but it's just a lot easier when you've organized it that way. Just create your constraints, and I'll do the same thing. I'll skip over this, but just torsion bar, base prop, place, repeat. See you guys in a moment. Alright, now that we're done with this, we are going to now completely disregard every single hydraulic we made. Just kidding. So what you're going to want to do now is probably precision alignment again. This should be like the last time you use it before you start designing the model and stuff, unless you just want to be organized. But right click the hydraulic you're controlling, the wheel. Make 0.1 on the torsion bar, 0.2 where you want the hydraulic to terminate. Go to R, go to wire hydraulic. I set width to 0 just to remove any look of the torsion bar. or the hydraulic at all, and then create constraint. What this will do is it'll remove the wire first of all if you set the width to 0, and make it so that the hydraulic is between these two exact points, and this will keep the distance consistent. So I'll show you guys when I do the next one. So one here, make sure this hydraulic's right clicked in blue, and you can see how that says 11.38, create constraint, 11.73, exactly the same. See there's slight variance, that variance will go away when we finish this. And I'll leave you guys to this again, just so the tutorial is a little bit shorter. Alright, I'm back and we've done with the hydraulics. Now, if we duplicated this guy, you will see that amazingly, the hydraulics don't work. It's cushioning the impact, but what? Well, we need to increase the resistance of these hydraulics for them to work with a 1-ton chassis. 1 metric ton, that is. So, what we're going to want to do is go to constant value. Set your numbers to something like this. This third number, make sure it corresponds to slightly larger than what your hydraulic length says, so that it always pushes down. So once you've placed that, go to wire, set length to the first number for all of your hydraulics. No, don't do that. That was stupid. Do not set length to the first number, set length to the third number. Oh boy. Hold on, I got this. My mouse started freaking out recently. Alright, now, I should be able to fix this. So set length to the third number, which for me is 15. It might be different for you guys, unless you're doing this tutorial exactly as I am, then it shouldn't be any different from me. Go to constant, that will be the first number. I don't know why I've done that. This will take a moment because I have to use my right click. Oh my god, people stop texting me. And then, put damping to the second number. Now you can edit this number later on, but just make sure your hydraulics are wired to this. Alright, now, if you create a duplicate now, what should happen is when you place it on the ground, well, okay, first of all, I made another oopsie. I forgot to no-collide all these things. So, the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to no-collide all with all the torsion bars. So the torsion bars don't, like, freak out against the wheel. And another thing to do is probably also no-collide all on the wheels as well. Unless you want to have some like destruction fest and like roll over things with the wheels, then I just no collide all. Otherwise, just no collide the wheels to the base prop and the torsion bar. And then what you're going to want to do is also make spherical on these wheels. I'm going to set radius to 10. Because make spherical makes the ride just so much smoother. I'm even going to do it on these guys too. Even though it doesn't really matter. They run much smoother when they're spherical. And now, you have a succeeding suspension. Ignore the glitchiness, that'll go away later when you've got more structure going on. It's kind of weird that it glitches like this, but meh. I'm not really worried about it all that much. It's kind of fun though. Whoa. But anywho, you've got a sort of working suspension there. It's probably because these wheels are trying to turn. Maybe it's just the surface I'm on. I want to see if it'll work out here. And you can actually see too, if you just roll it along, the suspension does work. Well, if you get the same glitchiness I do, there's ways to work it out. I don't think it'll matter though when you've got most of the structure going. Make sure, by the way, when you're doing things like this, that the wheels don't buckle and like stay above. But as you can see, it gives you a nice smoother ride. The entire point of the suspension is to make sure your tank doesn't freak out. So the next thing I'm going to do is this tutorial is, first of all, save this. Make sure you're saving these. So this would be a great point to save when you're pretty much done with the suspension. To counteract some of that glitchiness, I think I'm going to change the weight of these wheels. Make it a consistent 100. And I'm also probably going to reduce the damping on this constant value here. Bring the damping down to just 2,000 instead of 20,000. That should be fine. And why not just bring this back to 12? You guys don't have to do any of this, but I'm just gonna see if that like solves any problems. Yep. No more spazzing out. Oh, and if you're using this map, I don't really have much a link to it because I downloaded this a while ago. But if you do have access to this map when building this, the best place to test your suspension is right here in this rocky path or this bumpy road. And when you do that, try to get it so that your tank stays completely flat. That'll be the best way to do it. Now, it won't stay completely flat, but look. It's beautiful.